Hello, welcome back to Out on the Line podcast, and we are here for another review. My name is Jeff, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
Jeff, if I can give one piece of advice to you and everybody out there in listener land, it's be rootin', be tootin', and for God's sake, be shootin'. It's going to be another country fried album review this week on the podcast, our glorious return. Jeff, how are you doing?
I am doing quite well this week, and we are going to be talking about Ryan Bingham and his band, the Texas Gentlemen. The new album is called They Call Us the Lucky Ones, and we're going to find out if Alex and I are the lucky ones reviewing this album. So Ryan Bingham is an artist. I know we were talking about it a couple weeks ago and we decided to do this album that you weren't like overly familiar with. Once I told you he was in Yellowstone, you're like, okay, I guess I know who that guy is. But as far as the music goes, I think what probably most people would be familiar with him for is the songs that he wrote for Crazy Heart, the Jeff Bridges movie. Fantastic movie. If folks haven't seen it, absolutely suggest you go out and see it. Well, not go out and see it, just get it on DVD or something.
I was gonna say, where is it still playing?
Yeah, whatever your favorite streaming service is, I'm sure it's out there somewhere on those. But he was also in that movie as one of the backing bands for one of the stops for Bad Blake, the Jeff Bridges character in that movie. And I think he's always been more known as a songwriter than he's ever been known as a performer, because I feel like I guess the image that I have of him is a very well respected country artist, but he's one of those like your favorite country artist. He's like a Blaze Foley rather than a John Prine. It's somebody that if you're real deep in the game, you're very well aware of who Ryan Bingham is, but he's not burning up the top 40 country radio charts by any means. Has written some really, really great songs, but I think his problem has always been a little bit of inconsistency. And I think when we talk about this album, that's definitely something I'm going to touch on, and I'm wondering if that's something that you found. So what was your kind of initial thoughts here about the Bang?
I think it's interesting when you say it's inconsistency. I did not go back and listen to anything else, so it's entirely possible that happens album to album, project to project. As far as this album, and for me it was slightly a weakness, is I felt more sameness than I did inconsistency. And not bad sameness in the way that I found Eric Church, versus Florence and the Machine or whatever that album was called. But like I found that to be pretty samey and pretty boring. This, while not, I guess not to bury the lead, while not like the most revolutionary thing that I've ever heard, I enjoyed it. I think it's stylistically different from a Colter Wall or a Charlie Crockett, but has carved out kind of the same old school niche. I think Charlie Crockett's got kind of a smoldering modern gunslinger kind of aesthetic that really works for him. And Colter Wall's got the like, you load 15 tons. He's got like the old timer in a child's mustachioed body. And just doing those kind of like old school, very story driven songs. Then you get Ryan Bingham, who I've been calling Ryan Binghamton all week. But Ryan Bingham to me is trapped somewhere between the storyteller and the strong persona, the kind of things that, Colter Wall and Charlie Crockett respectively in this example represent. So for me, it was less inconsistency and more, he's got a foot in two worlds, personality driven music or story driven music. He tries both approaches. Neither is completely cohesive to me, especially in comparison with some of the people that we love on this show. So it was like sometimes a frustrating listen.
Yeah. So for me, I've always, I think when you write a song like The Weary Kind, from Crazy Heart, like that to me is one of the, I would put that right up there with like a John Prine song. I think that's one of those things where, you know, lightning, he caught lightning in a bottle with that one, and the same thing with the song I Don't Know from that soundtrack as well. And he's had several songs over the years that I've really dug into. I think the issue that I find, and to give an example from this album of like, a song like Americana, where I understand the sentiment, but there's really not a whole lot being said. And I think that's what keeps Ryan Bingham from kind of breaking through and becoming like maybe that superstar level that we talk about, like Tyler Childers being on, Charlie Crockett, maybe just a slight tier below that. But I think, I think the problem Ryan Bingham has is one, the voice is very interesting, but there's not a lot of range. And I think that is a help on sometimes, when he's telling those kind of sadder stories, it really fits for that. Those really kind of slow ballads, it really works for that because his voice sounds like it's been through those things, and I think that's a really good representation. Now does Tyler Childers sing the weary kind as well as Ryan? Does it hit the same? Probably not, because Tyler Childers has that much more kind of like honey dipped, more well rounded, warmer voice, where I think Ryan Bingham's strength is that grit, is those things. And when he writes a song that fits that, it's gangbusters. But the problem is when he writes a song that's supposed to be more of a pop song, it just doesn't carry the same way. And I think the storytelling, while I think that is his stronger suit, on a song like Cocaine Charlie, there's some interesting moments in that song, but I think saying a name like Cocaine Charlie is just a little hokey. And I think that's where I think when people don't get into Ryan Bingham, it's for reasons like that. Now, there's plenty of Ryan Bingham songs that I could play for somebody, and if somebody likes country music, they'll love them. But I think that's the struggle with telling anybody to, like he had an album called Mescalito, which is probably his biggest well-known album, um, that has a lot of great songs on it, but suffers from the same thing and is not going to be strong top to bottom like a Charlie Crockett, like the Lonesome Drifter like trilogy that he did, or any of the Tyler Childers albums. Like you listen to Country Squire and there's not a dead one on that album. Same thing with Purgatory. There's not a dead one on that album. I think that the struggle Ryan Bingham has is, he's a pretty prolific songwriter over the years, but I think there's not, and I don't want to say he's not self-critical enough, because I think he very much is. Like, he's a thinker. Like, you hear him in interviews and things like that. Like, he's not a dummy. Like, he's not just pumping these things out. These songs do mean something to him. I think the problem is getting them to mean something to somebody else.
That's a really good way of putting it. And I actually bumped on the same issue with the same song, Cocaine Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
The when I saw the title before I heard the song, I didn't necessarily think it was going to be like this heavily like narrative driven. I thought maybe it would be like an offhand reference, like I could see it being a song about, I'm at the bar, like I don't know, whatever. Something that references Cocaine Charlie without Cocaine Charlie being a character.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It felt a little corny. It felt a little forced. Like, you got to have a song like this on this album. What would Willie do? Like that. It felt like a decision that was made with him in his own head. And again, maybe he was like, oh, I'm in love with this. And like, there was clearly thought put into it, but it's just like, we've heard the song Cocaine Charlie a million different times, gussied up, just a little different with each iteration. Nobody will ever reach the heights that the great Steve Earle hit with Copperhead Road.
Mm-hmm.
This was kind of Ryan Bingham's Copperhead Road, but it felt forced. It felt like reaching for that aspiration, as opposed to this is driven by this really good idea. It's like this is a shared idea that everybody's had a lot for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Not terrible, but it definitely, and I became very aware of the length of the song. And that's where, when you're talking about like self-reflection, kill your darlings, learn to edit a little bit. I get it. You're telling a story. But when I first dipped a toe into songwriting, someone that was helping me through it was like, you are trying to tell way too complicated of a story in way too short of amount of time. You can stretch the song out and do Cortez the Killer if you want, but
Mhm.
that's pretty fucking bold for someone that's just kind of learning how to do this. Editing is your friend. And it just felt like throughout this album, there were some nips and tucks that could have taken place that would have tightened this up. And it's not even a length thing. It's just some of the things came across a little first drafty to me.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you do with the time you have? Because I think the album was only like 40 minutes. It's not like it was a long album whatsoever.
And it did not
You know,
feel long.
no, and so I think there was a lot of, I think that helped save a lot of it for me, is that I didn't, I think a song like Cocaine Charlie, like, and I'm just reading through the lyrics here, and it's, the problem is, it's like he has a character, Cocaine Charlie, and then he meets up with a guy named Chavo at the Rio Grande in the village of Hidalgo. It just felt like very contrived, and knowing the level, and I think the thing is, like, if Taylor Swift wrote a song like this, it'd be like, this might be the best thing she ever wrote. You know what I mean? But it's like, I know what Ryan Bingham is capable of, and to hear a song like this, I'm just like, I feel like there was something else there. Like, it's not necessarily the storyline I had a problem with. It's not necessarily the subject I had a problem with, but it's like, isn't there a more interesting way to tell this story? And if this is as interesting as you could make it, like you said, like, Kill Your Darlings. Like, I know this was probably one he was really excited about, but there are, I think there are such better examples of his songwriting on this album. Like, I really like the song Twist the Knife.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great Ryan Bingham song. I'm a Going Nowhere was a great Ryan Bingham song. Blue Skies I thought was decent. Relevance I thought was decent. I Got a Feeling, didn't love it. Let the Big Dog Eat I felt like was just a more country version of like a Blackberry Smoke song. So to me, there was, like I said, the inconsistency, I think, is what I really had the biggest problem with on this album. Is you had some highs, you had some songs that I really did like a lot, but then you had some that I was like, what are we doing here?
I also became pretty acutely aware throughout this how and why his music lends itself to television.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy to shit on Yellowstone and be like, it's a
Yeah.
baby, it's Coco Melon for boomers. And while that may be true, it's like they're not necessarily bad. I've never been able to get into any of them. Um, I think they're pretty corny. The only one I like, ironically, is the Tulsa King, and I only watched the first season. So, like, the Taylor Sheridan dramas are their own industry, and they're not for me, but they're for a great many people. And I think I when I listen to this album, when I listen to Ryan Bingham, I see how it lends itself to that universe, and I would dare say is probably a good match. I think it elevates the soundtrack a little bit as opposed to just like spending a ton of money on the old war horses. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how much money would we have to pay to use Mama Tried? And then you're getting into a decidedly like more southern aesthetic than the, where are they, Montana,
Yeah.
Wyoming? Yeah. Well, Yellowstone. You're kind of getting into that more like Western aesthetic with Ryan Bingham. So it's appropriate, and I think it elevates it and keeps it from being either schlock or, it becomes like a jukebox show, like
Mm-hmm.
that god awful Suicide Squad movie, a needle drop every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, this album kind of reads, for a lot of it, it reads as Yellowstone soundtrack music,
Mm-hmm.
slightly twisted and elevated, only slightly. And then you get, I think Cocaine Charlie's a clunker.
Yeah.
Musically not that bad, but conceptually and lyrically, it's very, very clunky. And that's what makes you even more aware of, like, you've had a lot of success writing for other people and writing music for television, like you're a soundtrack guy.
Yeah.
And that is its own beautiful, wonderful strength. And I'm under the impression that it works out better for him in that realm than this album did for me in the songwriting on this one.
And I'm telling you too, like so I think the production on this album was pretty good. Like everything sounded good, but I've seen Ryan Bingham live. Like I saw him at the Two Step In. I saw Sturgill at that one. And in our group chat, we were talking about Leonard Skinner the other day. It was that festival that Leonard Skinner was performing at that I went and watched Nelly instead. And also saw another Yellowstone known band, Shane Smith and the Saints, that I think I forget what season it is, but it's the song that closes it. And the song just rips. Like it's definitely like Yellowstone music, and it ripped live. And the band that Tyler, or I was about to say Tyler Children, I don't know why I even was bringing him up, but the band that Ryan Bingham had at this thing was the Texas Gentlemen, and they absolutely ripped, brother. They killed it. And while it sounded good on this album, like I know what that band can sound like. And like think about what Sturgill did with Mutiny After Midnight. Think about Tyler Childers with the Food Stamps. It's like he lets them rip. It's not just, well, it might be Tyler Childers as the marquee name. It's like it's like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Like, do you know one without the other at this point? Is one, it's the result is greater than the sum of the parts. And I think that is something that was missing on this album. If he had let the Texas Gentlemen like really sink their teeth into this stuff and have some more instrumental, there was room for it on this album. You talking about Cortez the Killer, I think part of what makes that song so incredible, I don't think anybody thinks of the lyrics first. They think of the guitar solo. I certainly do. And
Agreed.
the lyrics are still excellent, but what you think about is everything else too. And I think Ryan Bingham has always been a very like lyrically focused person, and is a decent songwriter. Like he can write a good song, but the problem is sometimes it's only good. And I think when you add a rockin' band behind it, then I think a band like the Dark Clouds, you let them do their thing. Like look at what Sturgill did with the Cut and Grass albums. Like he assembled like a DC universe and a Marvel universe worth of like bluegrass superheroes for those two albums. And I think knowing how good the Texas Gentlemen are as a band and how little of that you really got a sense of on this album, I think that is, other than the inconsistency, the kind of clunkiness of a song like Cocaine Charlie, that to me is one of the most egregious mistakes made on this album.
I would have to agree because you can tell it's a talented group, and you can tell that live there's got to be a lot of energy and a lot of cohesion, because just some of these songs felt limited in that way. Like this song wants to bust loose if you would allow the Texas Gentlemen to show some personality and some flash, and to kind of do some more like interesting, substantial things that are, it would maybe take people by surprise. It felt very conventional. It felt very safe. It felt very structured and directed, as opposed to like, how can we know what Sturgill's process is? But knowing what we know about him as an artist, it's about kind of like inviting everybody in, having an idea, and seeing where it goes as everybody contributes to it. This is not me calling Ryan Bingham like a micromanager. The thing is, the guy is talented. It is a talent. He has an Academy Award. Whatever you think of like award shows and what worth and value they do or do not have, it does mean something if you're honest with yourself. And it's merited. It's not just like, well, they gave it to him.
And he has a Grammy.
Yeah, so like he's not an untalented guy by any stretch. Like that is not the argument. But because he is talented, and because he has an eye for arrangement and the songwriting, maybe let the Texas Gentlemen cut loose. I think this album would have jumped like a point or two if it had been more like, you get the sense like I'm looking at the album cover, the billing is Ryan Bingham and the Texas Gentlemen all in the same font. They call us the Lucky. Like there's no attempt to hide them, but it also didn't feel like a mainstream, insofar as this is mainstream, coming out party. Like the Dark Clouds, I guess if we're going to keep holding things to the Sturgill standard, the Dark Clouds debuted on Mutiny After Midnight. That was like, it ain't just JBS, like JBS and the Dark Clouds. Here you go. It's a package deal. You're gonna grow into these personalities like you name drop E Street. I think that's perfectly appropriate because a lot of this was again trying to do that Springsteen-esque small scale storytelling, which Cocaine Charlie suffers for scale because it tries to do too much. And here's my cat to Godzilla my setup in the middle of a point. Thanks, a-hole. But then like where I got Cocaine Charlie was bad Springsteen. It was, have you ever seen a one-armed scarecrow
Oh God,
punching himself in the nuts, whatever that fucking song is.
the wrestler.
The wrestler. Yeah. You've seen me. Like
Yeah.
that song sucks, asshole. Dog's Dinner. And there's nothing quite that bad on this album, but you know, you can pick two directions with Bruce. You can be Nebraska Bruce, or you can be shitty wrestler song Bruce.
Mhm.
And I think these attempts at like grand scale storytelling kind of didn't come off.
Mhm.
I think really the main detriment to it is the energy, and the band should have featured the band way more and should have steered into a live sound. The most successful, interesting stuff we've listened to this year recorded live. I'm
Mhm.
realizing I'm big into people recording live.
Yeah, I think you miss out, and I think one again to go back to his voice, like it's a very interesting voice, and the thing is, like you listen to somebody like John Prine, not like the thing that people talk about with John Prine is he's funny and he's a great songwriter, one of the best to ever do it. Like Bob Dylan, terrible singer, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. Like even Bruce Springsteen is like he's a good singer, but there's like compared to somebody like a Beyonce is an amateur, and I think it if you had, but the thing that all of those other people had was something else. It wasn't just their voice that was meant to carry this whole thing, and it feels like on this album his voice is the thing that's meant to carry everything. And while it is a very interesting, that rasp is like nobody else sounds like that. Like it's a very interesting tone and very interesting sound that he has, which I think doesn't allow the rest of the music to elevate, because, or I guess it would be better if the rest of the music elevated it. And maybe it's not strong enough to like sit above all that stuff. And it's like, like Sturgill's a good singer. He can hit some notes, he can sing powerful, like he can really project his voice, but I don't think you're putting him on the same like category as like a George Strait, where it's just this like really pleasant, like, this guy was born to sing. It's like he's got a feeling and he's going to get it out, and he's good at doing that. And I think having a really great backing band behind him is one of the most important things you can do. And I know how good the Texas Gentlemen are, so he's got it there, and it's just not utilized. And I think recording it live would have probably helped, and maybe they did, but it just didn't feel like it. It just didn't feel like there was anything that I didn't see coming throughout this album. There were songs that I really overall overall enjoyed, because I always do. I have a soft spot for Ryan Bingham. Like he's written some of my favorite country songs ever, and it's, but I think that's part of what makes it a little disappointing, is because I keep wanting to release a classic. I keep wanting him to release like a Lonesome Drifter level kind of album, or like a Purgatory level album, or like a High Top Mountain level album. And it just keeps not happening for Ryan Bingham. He keeps like giving me little tastes and great songs, and keeps playing a good character in Yellowstone, like one of the only ones that I could stand by the end of the whole thing. But it's just, I think overall for this album, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
I think this being my first exposure, I think it bodes well that I was overall bullish on it. So for me, we're sitting above 500 to start, which is good. I wish that he had said more interesting things here, because you see these flashes of, some rip snorting, which is nice. And then
Mhm.
like the thoughtful balladeer, you see the strengths. You are very aware of when they're not being played to. You see some missed opportunities. You see some solid craftsmanship. So it's a little all over the place in terms of what there is to like and what there is maybe not to like so much. I overall just wish he had more interesting things to say and that I was more interested in hearing them. Again, it's tough when you look at someone and you go, "You're very talented, but why should I put you in the rotation ahead of Coulter Wall, Casey Musgraves, Tyler Childers, Old Sturge? Go back way back to your old, like, why should I put you in the rotation before I'm listening?" Like Willie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a huge Willie Nelson guy, but like if I'm going for like country that speaks to me or essential country, which sometimes there's like quite a bit of overlap there, I'm going for like the real precious stuff, and this just didn't find a way to stand out to me or really speak to me. And maybe that's more a reflection of me than it is and where I'm at than it is Ryan Bingham. Good old Ryan Binghamton. The talent is clearly there. For me, it didn't click. I will say 6.5.
Okay. Okay. That was a little stronger than I thought you were gonna be on this one. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it never tipped into dog shit. So
And that's the thing, is I think that's why I couldn't go any lower than a 5, but I felt like I needed to go as low as I could stomach, and that was definitely 5 on this one. So 5 out of 10, a 6.5 out of 10. Unfortunately, don't think it's going to be in the running for the greatest albums of the year. But I know we did an episode reviewing every single episode of Yellowstone. And Alex, where can the folks find all those?
yes, that is a very real, very popular episode. Hard to find. So you're going to have to sift through a lot, like 400 videos worth of back content just to find it. There is no easy way. I suggest you just keep watching each video until you find some sort of link through to our incredibly thorough and popular Yellowstone review at youtube.com/C/out on that line. Folks, there are a lot of things we do on this channel. Reviews. We do our little one-off singles thing. Sometimes we do trivia. Sometimes we do deep dives into lore and history. It's called On the Record. We do a lot of reviews. We really do bring a lot of premium content around. One thing we don't do is lie to you. So when I say, if you watch every single video on the channel, eventually you will find the Yellowstone review episode, that's not a lie. I could tell you that, and that wouldn't be a lie. With the caveat that you may find it through some kind of insane fugue state and sleep deprivation point of delirium. So I'm not saying that it doesn't exist and you just be making it up, because if you hallucinate it, it's still real, right? It's still real to you, God damn it. And that is what matters. We're not necessarily spoon feeding you our reality. We're helping you unlock the possibilities within your own unconscious mind. We're empowering you to create the reality that best suits you and where you're at. And it can change anytime. Integral part of it. We have changed so many lives, not necessarily always for the better, but that's the chance that you take. So, all I can say to make sure that we get this ball rolling is that you subscribe to this channel. You have to click the thumbs up to like the video. You have to hit the bell to turn notifications on so that you get notified when we drop more content. And of course, the big thing, if you could hype the video, that's great. But the comments, oh, the sweet, sweet comments. We love to see them roll in. We love to interact with you. And they really do wonders for the channel and all of our premium content, including the fabled Yellowstone review episode that is very real. And I promise it's real. At youtube.com/C/out on that line. Let's imagine a better reality together.
I couldn't have said it better myself, folks. Until next time.